Alright, getting straight into this video, I am going to be ranking every single exclusive enchant in Pet Simulator 99. For those of you that don't know, exclusive enchants are enchants that you could buy with Robux, whether that's through the Forever Pack or just straight up buying the enchant itself. Getting straight into it, first we have the Superior Chest Mimic. Now honestly, this Chest Mimic used to be really bad, and it was the worst in the game when it first released, but then they added Superior Chest Mimic Mastery, which basically makes the Superior Chest a lot better. And one of the perks in the mastery is like 5 times loot from the Superior Chest Mimic, or I guess superior chests in general, not just the Mimic. And because of that mastery, it really saved this enchant. But taking into consideration the cost of the enchant, it is quite expensive, and for that reason I'm going to be putting it in B tier. Definitely not bad, but it's not my first pick. Next up we have the Mini Chest Fortune. Now honestly, this enchant is super underrated. Many people think it's trash, and that's because many people don't have the right setup for it. If you combine this enchant with Chest Spell Ultimate and Chest Mimic enchant, it can be really powerful because it gives you 2 times better items from your mini chests. So with the right setup, this is very good, and honestly I would put it in A tier, but because you need such an expensive specific setup to actually make it good, I'm gonna have to put it in C tier because otherwise it's not great. Coming up next is the Chest Mimic. This is a very good ultimate, especially paired with the last enchant I was just talking about, but the main downside of this is how damn expensive it is. This thing costs over 2 billion and the price just keeps rising all the time, and it's super hard to get your hands on this. But is it a good enchant? Yeah, it is pretty good, and it has so much potential because of the Mini Chest Fortune enchant. So for that reason, I'm going to be putting it in A tier. It can't receive S tier just because of its price. Next up, we have the Lucky Block enchant. This enchant is honestly a great option for beginners. For those of you that don't have any good item farming enchants, this is probably going to be your first go-to option because it's so cheap and it works kind of well. Is it anywhere near as good as, say, something like a Chest Mimic? Absolutely not. And for that reason, I'm going to be putting it into C tier. Not bad, but not great. Next up is the Boss Chest Mimic. Honestly, from my experience, this thing kind of sucks, not gonna lie. They spawn pretty frequently, which is the main upside of this enchant, but besides that, the loot that you actually get from it is quite bad. I never usually see myself getting anything useful from it, and I honestly don't run this enchant anymore. But the price of it isn't too bad. It usually hovers around 250 million, and for that, I'm gonna put it in C tier, and I'm actually gonna put it above Lucky Block, because I think it is better. Next up is the Boss Lucky Block enchant. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I really don't know a lot about this enchant. I never see anybody running it. I never hear anybody talking about it, and it's pretty irrelevant, I'm not gonna lie. But from what I've seen and what I've gathered from videos and talking to people, it seems like it's an okay enchant, but it's kind of on the same level as Boss Chest Mimic, where it's good, but it's not great. And the price of it is much higher than the Boss Chest Mimic. So for that reason, I'm gonna be putting it into C tier right before the Boss Chest Mimic, just because Boss Chest is a lot more affordable. Up next is the Lightning Orbs enchant. I mean, this can be okay for some very specific situations, but honestly, who's going to be running this enchant? Why would you want lightning orbs when you could have something like a treasure hunter enchant, or a criticals, or a diamonds, or many other enchants that would probably bring you more benefit than this enchant here? Is it bad? Not necessarily. I don't think it's like garbage, and I think it has its place, but its place doesn't exist too often. And for that, I'm going to be putting it at the end of C tier. Next up, we have the Nightmare Orbs. So this is very similar to the lightning orbs, and honestly all the reasoning is about the same, so I'm going to be putting it at the end of C tier. It's pretty much on the same level as lightning orbs. Super Magnet enchant. I'm pretty sure you guys can guess where this is going to go. Straight into S tier. This enchant is so amazing. I love this enchant. It's my favorite enchant in the whole game. Why, you may be asking? Well, if you have the auto farm game pass, you're able to leave your pets in a specific area, say the final area, and then you could go ahead and do anything else you want. You can go collect stuff around the map, you can go auto hatch, and do whatever else you want to do. Now, what makes Super Magnet so good, combined with the auto farm game pass, is that you don't have to worry about placing down magnet flags to be able to hatch forever. You could just throw on this enchant, turn on your auto farm, leave your pets in the final area, and boom, and now you have such an amazing strong setup where you could be farming the final area, making tons of diamonds and items, and hatching the final egg, getting those good stat pets, and potentially getting active huge pets. It is expensive, but its utility is just so amazing that I can't put it any lower than S tier. Next up is Massive Comet. This one is honestly gonna hurt me. It's going into D tier. This enchant is so bad. I did some testing recently just to see how bad it really was, and the results really shocked me. When you break the Massive Comet, you get roughly 400 diamonds in like a few items, and the items are really bad. This is so much worse than the Lucky Block enchant, and it costs almost double the amount. This enchant really needs a buff. It's so bad, and I never recommend anyone using it. I did really like it when it first came out, and I had high hopes for it, but those high hopes are long gone by now. The Corruption enchant. This enchant oftentimes is pretty situational, but it's more useful than say something like the Lightning Orbs enchants, because in the game we come across a lot of chests that take a long time to break, say the jungle boss fight in the Void World, or something like the chest rush minigame in World 2. And what Corruption does, it basically makes it so that you can do way more damage to one specific breakable, and that comes in handy for breakables that have tons of health. It is a little expensive. I think right now it's a little over 100 million, and it's definitely not needed most of the time, but for those specific reasons, it is very helpful. So I'm going to be putting it in the middle of C tier, right between Boss Lucky Block and regular Lucky Block. Next up is the Fireworks enchant. This one, it's honestly pretty bad. I never use this enchant. You can argue that it has some use for when you're doing, say, chest rush or the other stuff I was just talking about. It's only useful for those types of things, but it doesn't even help that much anyways. The only upside to this enchant is that it's really cheap. It's like a little over 100,000 gems, which everybody can afford. So I can't say it's D tier because it does have some use and it is very cheap. So I'm going to be putting it at the end of C tier. Next up is the Diamond Chest Mimic. Oh boy. This enchant is the biggest disappointment in Pet Simulator history. If you guys haven't seen my video from the other day, I talked about the worst enchant in Pet Simulator 99 history, and this is it. This is the worst enchant ever. This enchant costs so much. It's worth about 3 huge pets right now, and it's so incredibly bad, you will never make your money back from using this enchant. And I did the math for it. You have to break just over 34,000 diamond mini chests for you to actually get your money back. That is horrible, and especially because they don't spawn that often. They take like 5+ minutes to spawn. So for that reason, going straight into D tier, worst enchant in the game. Next up is the Super Shiny Hunter. Honestly, this enchant is pretty solid. If you're into hatching active huges like me, you're gonna want to have this enchant on. It is pretty much the Shiny Hunter enchant on steroids. It is so good for increasing your chances for shiny huge pets or just shiny stat pets. It's good for both. But the only downside to this is that it's really expensive. I don't know what the wrap is right now, but last time I checked, it was well over 400 million. So for that reason, I don't think I'm going to be able to put it any higher than B. It's a solid enchant. It has its use, but its price is just very steep. Next up, we have the Party Time enchant. This is one of those enchants where it can be useful, but most of the time it's not useful. I would say where this enchant really shines is when you're trying to AFK overnight while grinding ranks. So the Party Time enchant basically increases your chances for random events to spawn in the area that you're in. So that could be a comet spawning, a coin jar, or whatever it may be. And if you spend any amount of time ranking up in this game, you're gonna know that those are pretty important for ranking up. So Party Time has that benefit for ranking up overnight. And we did see a global event where we had to break random events, like break 5 random coin jars or something like that. So it can be useful for those very specific instances. But other than the things that I just mentioned, you're never gonna be using this. And for those reasons, I'm gonna be putting it towards the end of C tier, right in front of the Fireworks enchant. Next up is the Super Shiny Charge, something like that. I think that's what it's called. And basically what this enchant does is it increases the damage of all your shiny pets by 150%. Now, so many people talk so down on this enchant and that it's so bad. And for the most part, you're right. It is kind of bad, but I think it's pretty underrated. And here's why. If you say have a full team of shiny stat pets, or a full team of shiny exclusives, or a full team of shiny huges, if you put this enchant on, their damage is going to be increased by 150%. That is a big increase for your pet's damage, especially if you combine it with the Strong Pets enchant. Then you're talking some serious damage. There are some YouTubers like Alpha GG who have a full team of shiny huge pets, and if they were to equip this enchant, all of their huge pets would be 150% stronger. So combining this with Strong Pets will give you some pretty crazy results. And honestly, it is very cheap. I think it's only like 8 or 9 million right now, so it is very affordable. But for this to actually be useful, it is so hard to get a setup like that, and almost nobody is going to be able to benefit from this enchant. Only the really high level players considers the elites of the game. And for that reason, I'm gonna have to put it at the top of D tier. For 99.99% of players, this enchant is pretty much useless, but for that top 0.001% of players, this could actually be a really solid enchant. And there you go. This is my entire tier list. Most of the enchants are in C tier. That might be a surprise to some of you, but this is my honest ranking. All the ones in C tier are not bad. I'm not saying they're bad enchants, but they're just not that good. I can't say that Boss Chest Mimic is on the same level as Superior Chest Mimic or Super Shiny Hunter, because it's just not. These enchants down here have their place. They are kind of good, but they're not good enough to be any higher than where they are now. I feel like this ranking is going to upset some players, especially because of the C tier. I think there's going to be some people saying that the Boss Mimics should be a tier higher, or that some of the Orb enchants should be a tier lower. I don't know. But comment down below what your opinions are on this. Let me know if you think I'm absolutely crazy, or if you agree with me. I'm definitely open to hearing your opinions down below. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.